Hello friends, welcome to day 13. Is it day 13? I think so. We've got an interesting video for you today. Now, there's 3 parts. It's a very distinct video, maybe 4 parts. First of all, we start, our electrician Jeremy arrives and we do some work on the electrical for the solar panels. We finish it. Yay, that's like less than a minute at the start. Then you get a chance to go to Angers with Leslie, and she is looking for tile for the bathroom. So you're gonna it's gonna be kind of like a go shopping with the designer, and it's kind of fun. Leslie lets out her designer a little bit. Like you can kind of, she's very encouraging in regular life, but when she's a designer, she's like, no. So you're gonna enjoy that. And then she goes to the Brocante as well. So stay for that. Then we're gonna sort of end the traditional video with our Christmas carol, and we went to the local cathedral and sang Silent Night. May not be the last time we do Silent Night because it's such a beautiful song, but it was quite nice, just the 2 of us singing a cappella. Hope you enjoy it. Sing along to help us out. And then finally, I'm gonna talk for like more than 10 minutes about the nonprofit and explaining all of that. I promised I would do it a couple of videos ago, so it actually turned out okay. Perhaps you'll be interested, but it's fine if you're not. You certainly don't have to watch that part. Okay, enjoy the video, and we'll see you guys soon.
Well, it's a little chillier today, but we're very grateful that our electrician friend Jeremy has come out to help with the solar panels. Rob got them all set up, and now we needed his expertise to hook it all up and make it happen. So we're pretty excited. Stage 1, we're figuring it out. And now Jeremy can come and figure out a few other things for us. It's very exciting. We're happy to have him.
Jeremy's here, yeah, our electrician, and also a fellow speaker of the King's English. So that is wonderful. I asked him if I should give him a shout out. He's like, no, he's got lots of business, but don't hire him because we want him. But anyways, really thankful he's here. And check this out, putting in the new electric for the solar. This is pretty exciting. This is Jeremy, by the way. There he is. Our favorite electrician in the world. And that they're plugged in. Woot! Very exciting. Oh man, look at that. This is great. We're gonna dig those in. There's power coursing into the system. I'm gonna go turn on every light we have in the house. Oh, I'm just kidding. How'd it go? It went okay? Oh, there we go. That's what I'm talking about right there. Yeah, no, it's always a happy day when Jeremy's here. You give us things like our kitchen and our dishwashing room, and now solar panels. Yeah.
It's a beautiful December day, and I'm in the city getting all of our linens, which is quite a haul of them. Hopefully they're all here this time. It was kind of impossible to count because they have them all sort of packaged differently. But when we get home, I'll have to pull them apart and see. So I don't think I'm gonna shop at the mall because I have other things to do today. So we're gonna actually go over to our Home Depot, which is called Le Roi Merlin, which is like King Merlin is the name of their store. And I'm gonna go check out tile. And I went down a little research rabbit hole today after being in that other bathroom where I did the oven racks and I was cleaning with that tub, thinking maybe I should do some research on refinishing that tub because it should be a fairly quick little project. So maybe I'll try it myself. We'll see. I'd prefer probably to have it done properly this time because I think they painted it last time. But it looks like Leroy Merlin has this paint that people use all the time. So we'll give it a go and see what it looks like. Well, I didn't see the product I wanted for the tub renovation. However, we're heading over now to the tile section and we're gonna do a little walkthrough and see what we can see for the upstairs bathroom, for maybe the basement kitchen floor even. It won't be anything like that geographic kind of pattern. It'll be calmer than that. But we'll give every little aisle a walkthrough and see what we see. That's cool for tile, eh? Well, you know how I had said I was gonna look for some kind of ceramic Calcutta gold version? This kind of looks like what it is. I can't say I'm loving it in general, unfortunately, but you know, we'll keep looking and see what we think here. Although I'm not going black, this is a much more convincing piece and is much more impressive overall. But I don't think we're gonna go black marble vibe. Now this one's much better. You can start seeing sort of a translucent quality that usually real marble has. Looks darker in the camera here than it does in person. But that piece is pretty good, to be honest. And it's all one piece, which is pretty amazing. How we would carry that upstairs, that I don't know. Now I think the quality of this being completely shiny is definitely helping it look more real in general. So the white itself is a little better. But the one that I wanted was called, well, it was supposed to look like Calcutta Gold, which is has some caramel veins in it, and kind of like that, but I am not loving their fake. Although they're calling that white marble blush, so that doesn't look right either. So maybe the sample isn't here. It's very important to see samples in real life. So far, it's not a check mark for me on this one. Well, the xylage tiles are definitely popular, even over here, and not just in our neck of the woods at home. But this green, I am definitely in the mood to do a bathroom in. Won't be ours, but we have other bathrooms to do. And for any of you older, like 80s and 90s people, remember when green marble was big? It's back. It's on its way. It's showing itself in many different locations. I personally love it. Not sad to see it back. I figured while I was in the area, I may as well walk through the shower pan area. I really like it to be ceramic, something that's going to last a long time. There's many in the chateau that I think are fairly old, and they're in great shape. And I kind of like not to have acrylic where they kind of squeak and they bend, and I'd rather not. I'm hoping this will be the last shower pan the chateau needs for that bathroom. There is this guy who does look like he's 120 by 90, which is a nice size actually. And I think it could be good, big, not too big in general, and might take care of business. I don't love when we have these angled brackets to hold up the glass. Oof, I don't like those at all. I just think they're ugly. So in North America, we would put kind of brackets on the side that holds it up, but I'm not sure this one has that option. This one might be better. It has a slider, which is probably better. Same size. I think that could work for you. Okay, France, this is what I don't get. How come every single vanity is ugly? Like, they're just boring. Everything is generally modern, except for a couple over here that's sort of traditional. Maybe one in the back there. But, ugh, I don't want any of these. There's like a million of them. They all look the same. Oh man. Not what we're looking for. Well, I totally forgot to take you with me into the other Brocante that I was just in, but I saw nothing there, so it wasn't very inspiring. So I went back to the one that we go to more often, because the other one's only open for a few days. And I thought I'd take a little peek and see what else we can find. We definitely don't need these. Now we don't eat a lot of boiled eggs in our life anymore. But you gotta say that this is adorable. A whole little caddy to hold them all. Not for 19 euro, but adorable nonetheless. So many fun little treasures. In general, I noticed over here, tucked in, minus this guy, a beautiful marble letter opener. Things we just don't use anymore. But pretty, considering it's €4. If only my dad was around, he'd probably use it. Very fun. Lots of funny little tchotchkes. This is one of those situations where this is a great deal. It's €29. It's a great little corner shelf, and right now I can't think of where we would need one until we need one, and then I'll say, why didn't we get this? I'm apparently a sucker for cookbooks, regardless of the language. Check this one out. Isn't that fun? It's pricey though. And who's kidding who? I'm not gonna make anything probably out of it, but it would be cool. Isn't that fun? Well, it's the things that you don't expect to find that you find. And I found 2 matching lanterns that are adorable. Look at even the little bottoms. And 4 lights, which is really unusual. So I'm happy about that, whether we use them in the basement, in the hall, or any number of little spots. But the fact that they have 4 lights and that they're kind of like an octagon, or it's like a square but with angles, and €39. What a deal. And then a little tiny basket. I have a big version of this at home, but sometimes I'm only doing a few flowers that I'm cutting outside. It's just nice to have a little smaller one to take out and snag some blossoms. So for a couple of euro, yeah, I'll take that nice little old basket. Well, a day doesn't always go how you expect. What I went in looking for is not what I found, but isn't that how treasure hunting is? So, c'est la vie. And we'll continue on our pendant lights. People often say, what are you looking for when you go into a brocante? And I'm like, oof, too many things. You just don't know what you're going to find. And I kind of have this overall vision of what all the spots are in the chateau that needs things. And it's just too many, there are too many things to list. So this would be one of those little lanterns to go maybe down the hallway in the basement as we start to continue to make that look livable and normal and not like a dungeon. But all of those kinds of things, not to mention the second floor in the future or the stables. So you never know where something's going to end up. But when you get a deal, you get a deal. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child, holy infant so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace.
Hi everybody, it's Rob. It's the end of a working day. I got my work clothes on, don't judge me, and showing you a different look at the chateau. By the way, notice we're letting the paths grow in, and actually they're looking terrific. Like this one over here, it looks much better. You can see it's kind of starting to disappear. This one in the video looks bad from your angle, but in real life, it's doing good. So it's been a good decision. You know, at the end of our video the other day, straighten this guy out a little bit. At the end of our video, when we were talking a little bit about the stables, I always enjoy reading the comments, and a lot of people were saying, "Hey, way to go, save the stables." I was thinking you should do that, and a lot of words of affirmation for our board, which they will appreciate. I think probably a couple of them read the comments. There's 9 of us, by the way, on the board, and Leslie and I are also on the board because we're not employees; we don't get paid, so we're technically directors, 2 of 9. And so at the end of that video, I said I would explain a little bit more how it works with the nonprofit and what that is. Now, understand right off the bat, we're organized in the United States. So when I talk about a nonprofit, we're a 501c3. That's the American designation. And so everything I say will kind of relate to that country. Each country is a little different. I know Canada's quite a bit more strict with what can issue tax receipts. But in any case, a nonprofit in the US is a pretty broad term. Basically, it's any company that is not organized to make money. And so a person doesn't own it. You don't own a nonprofit. The nonprofit is governed by a bunch of directors, and they, you know, make the decisions. And by the way, they're legally liable, including Leslie and I. So if we make a mistake or if we did something wrong, you could go to jail, or you could, there's a lot of bad things that can happen. So you got to be careful. It's a trust. And it's a thing that the IRS monitors carefully. We do reports every year. So, a lot of churches are nonprofits, food shelters, food banks are homeless shelters are nonprofits, famine relief. But not just that, you might be surprised to hear that the NFL was a nonprofit. The NCAA is a nonprofit, meaning the organization doesn't make money itself. It's not owned by a person. But to be sure, there's people in the NFL making a lot of money. So sometimes nonprofits can hire, you can have employees, you can pay employees. The one that always kind of stuck in my craw a bit, there's a secondhand clothing store, Goodwill. And maybe people like them a lot in our area and in the US. And I read an article that said that their CEO gets $5 million a year. And you're kind of like, come on, man, for a nonprofit. So again, a little bit of explanation. So the salary that comes from a nonprofit is taxable like any other salary. So it's just income, it's taxed. So we set up the study abroad as a nonprofit after we had some folks saying, hey, we'd like to support you. We believe in what you're doing. Typically a nonprofit is trying to make the world better in some way. And in our case, it's through education, and the spread of religion is the encouragement of religion is the other category that the IRS has. I'm sure some people don't enjoy that line very much, but that is one of the technical ways you can become a nonprofit. Okay, so there's all kinds of rules. Now, what makes ours a little bit tricky is, if maybe you have a foundation or something that's behind you and they're saying, hey, we want you to go feed the hungry. We're going to give you a couple $100,000 to do that. We're going to pay you a salary, et cetera, et cetera. Then you kind of have financial support, and then you go out and get donors and stuff, and then you go feed the hungry. Ours is different. We started with nothing. We had no money, no assets, just Leslie and me, and an idea. And we got a couple friends to start off with as board members, and then we've expanded since then. And so we had the idea to do a study abroad, and we actually tried the first one in 2019. If you go back and watch our old videos, we tried it before we were a nonprofit. So we were just, I think we organized as a LLC or something in the States. So, and later on we got the nonprofit status. We wanted to see if it would work. And now, since the organization has nothing, it'd be impossible for the organization to buy a chateau. So, but Leslie and I really had it on our heart to do this. And we're kind of middle-aged, we're coming into our 50s at that point. We're solidly in our 50s now. And we were kind of saying, how are we going to use the last years of our life to make the world a better place? We have a couple decades, 2, maybe 3 decades of work left. We don't plan on retiring. We'll work as long as we're able to. And it's a little bit easier to do when you're working with people. It's not like you're carrying bricks, though there are some bricks being carried in real talk. So we were kind of like, how can we use what we have to make the world a better place? And we called the organization Two Talents. I think I've talked about it before. It's from a story where Jesus talks about a guy who was essentially, Jesus was talking about a guy, these servants that were really fearful and lazy, some of them, and other ones were hardworking, and basically that's the one that the master was happy with. And that's kind of what we want to do. We want to make the world a better place. So we started thinking about this idea, and ultimately, if you've watched our videos, we sold our house and we got some inheritance from parents earlier. We never thought we'd be rich. That was never part of our goal in life. We worked in churches and schools for years, never made a lot of money. Both my kids, our daughter Amy just got a promotion at her church, very exciting. And David too has had some lately. And both our kids make more already as middle 20-year-olds than we ever did our whole life. It's really cool, actually. As a dad, you're excited about that. But we didn't have a ton of money, but somehow through the inheritance and then just making good decisions with houses and working hard and saving up, we had some money. And so we decided to put it into the chateau. You watch our first few episodes, you can see that story. So Leslie and I own the chateau, but we don't own the nonprofit. So anything that belongs to the nonprofit is not ours. Like the mower here, the ovens, anything that can be moved and sold, basically, belongs to the nonprofit. And then if this organization was to go down, or if we were to leave, the nonprofit would continue to own it or sell it and give it to another charity. That's how that works. So then somebody asked a very good question on YouTube, said, well, how does that work then if you're going to do a project that increases the value of the chateau that you own doesn't that become a taxable benefit? And that's where things get really complicated. So there's a couple of ideas that are very important to understand. The first one is something called conflict of interest. That's when, so Leslie and I are in a conflict position because we own the chateau, but we also are on the leadership team of the nonprofit. So anytime something to do with the chateau comes up that could benefit us, we have to excuse ourselves from the meeting. And the IRS has a great policy, and essentially they say this, the board has to, the leaders have to put out, they have to do due diligence to look at, to research other opportunities that would be as good or potentially even better. And if those exist, then the organization needs to take them rather than benefiting a group. So for example, if Leslie and I were renting this, do you know how much chateau rent for? Google it. Google it. It's a lot. Like 100,000 a year would not be unusual. But let's say if we were to try to rent this to the organization for 5,000 a year, then the board would look at other chateau that were similar and say, well, how much are those? And is this a good deal or not? But the deal we offered the board is we'll offer it to the nonprofit for $0 a year. I think technically our lease says $10 a year, but we've never collected. So, we have a 10-year lease with the organization, and the nonprofit can use the chateau as much as it wants for 10 years, and we will get no money. So we're pretty, in terms of the IRS, at that point, the IRS is pretty happy with us, just saying, yeah, clearly you're not. I mean, right, we're losing, right? It's essentially, we're loaning the money for this building for 10 years, free and clear. We don't get a receipt, a tax deductible receipt for it, but we don't need it because we don't have a lot of income. So that just works out really well. So conflict of interest is the first thing. The second thing is excessive benefit. Excessive benefit is when someone makes a deal within the organization that financially assists the person who is on the board or leadership. So that's the one we're really worried about, because obviously if the chateau goes up in value due to a project, then we stand to gain something. So that's where we decided to do some homework, and one of our board members from the East Coast had a lawyer friend from New York who I believe charges $900 an hour, and he actually for free wrote us up a lease agreement that would satisfy the conditions of the IRS. And so a part of that is the organization is able to borrow this thing free and clear, but they do pay for utilities, and just, anytime an organization rented a building, you'd pay for the heating and all of those kind of things. And so they take care of all the costs of the building. And technically they're on the hook for damage. So if a student breaks something, which happens all the time, then the nonprofit will fix it. And they're also responsible for some other things like insurance and et cetera, et cetera. And as one of the provisions of the lease, the organization is also allowed to make improvements to the chateau for its own benefit, as long as they're approved by the owners, which would be Leslie and I. So, for example, at the start, we put in 10 toilets. We put in 10 new toilets because the students don't want to sit on cracked, leaking toilets, right? Now, is that a benefit? I mean, we'll see, because again, we're not just dropping money and hiring guys. Basically, it's Leslie and I putting them in. So each toilet costs the organization maybe 120 euro. And then of course they're gonna have in those rooms, let's see, one of those rooms, we have 50 students a year right now, maybe 3 in the room. So 6 in a room per year. So perhaps we have, I don't know, 60 students will use those toilets, and of course pay tuition, which will go to the nonprofit organization. Is this getting complicated? I hope not. So now where this is going to become a little bit of a question is when we go to sell. Now, in the best case scenario, Leslie and I would like someday to sell this thing to the nonprofit. And we give the nonprofit a good price. Now, we'll don't be misled. We will ask market value, because currency changes, inflation happens, etc. And basically, this is all of our, we put all of our retirement and everything into this. So this is, we have to be prudent. We can't just give everything away. And I suppose you could and live on the street, but that probably wouldn't be the smart move. So we'll sell it for what it's worth, but there's only excessive benefit if we actually sell it for a whole bunch more than we paid for, like relative to inflation and things like that. And now this is where things start to help us. And this is maybe complicated, but most people don't make money on chateau. Like if we wanted to become rich, we would have put our money into low income medium income housing, and we would have rented that, and we would have had a bunch of those going. We'd be taking money every month and drinking margaritas by the pool. We don't really drink margaritas, but that would be like a pretty easy life. Instead, we basically, Leslie and I probably work about, man, between the two of us, probably about 100 hours a week, most weeks of the year, and it's volunteer. We don't get paid, and we run this program. Now, what we get out of it is the knowledge that we're helping people and the relationships we have with the kids, and honestly, it's kind of, the whole thing's kind of fun too. It's an adventure. And again, we're Christian people, right? We're religious people, so we believe that doing good matters and it's important. And so this is kind of our life goal, not getting rich. So we don't care that we're not getting paid. The board has offered to pay us, I think, or at least they've made, they've asked questions about that. And for this point, I mean, partly because of our visa, we can't take it. But honestly, we just don't need to right now. We have a rental house in the States that we get a little bit of income, and so that pays for any personal expenses that we have. And we don't have very many expenses because most of the time we're just working on this. So in any case, we'll see what happens when we go to sell. Best case, we can sell to the nonprofit for a good price, and then then the nonprofit owns the chateau and everything will be simple. But of course, the nonprofit has to exist for a while and be strong enough to do that. And that will probably, I imagine that will take some years. I would love that personally. I mean, it's obviously safer for us. Right now, we're carrying the financial risk. If this thing burns down or if something happens, basically Leslie and I lose everything. So, there's a fair amount of risk and there's a whole lot of work. The other thing that's significant with excessive benefit is it doesn't exist until you've actually benefited. And usually when people sell these chateaux, they just don't appreciate that much. And sometimes people, especially North Americans, find that hard to imagine because they're thinking, when you put in a really nice roof, that makes it more valuable. And you're like, kind of, yes. The insurance guys told us the other day that the replacement value on this would be maybe 7 million, maybe 10, maybe 6, maybe 8. And so clearly no one's ever going to replace it because you can buy them for, $1 million or whatever, maybe 1/10 the replacement cost. And the reason why the value is only 1/10 of the replacement cost is because they're so difficult to maintain and they're so expensive to maintain. So you can make improvements to this building. Let's say it's worth 7 million replacement value, and let's say you put $500,000 into it, so now it's worth 7.5 million. You didn't just make 500,000 because it's still only going to sell for $1 million. Do you know what I mean? Like the price is, maybe it goes up a bit, but not much, because the value, the thing holding the price down, is not related to how awesome the chateau is. Okay, that's complicated, but I hope that makes sense. So understand that we're on it. Our board is on it. We've had lawyers look at it, and we're making sure we do things right. Our goal is not to get rich from this thing. The deal I made, now this is not legal talk. This is just real personal talk, and I've said this before. When we got into this, I was praying to God, and I was saying, God, if we can do this if you give us 10 or 20 good years of helping people and we only lose 100,000, I will take that. I would take that deal, and that deal still stands to God. And so we'll see if we lose that much, or maybe we lose nothing. That would be good too. Maybe we come out ahead. I'm not sure. In any case, it's not what we're not what we're worried about. I hope that answers your questions. Suffice it to say, we have thought significantly about this issue, and we want to make sure we're doing things above board.